I'm a biologist by day, that's my day job, and I fancy myself an amateur information architect to develop things we use in the classroom, and I want to talk about visualizations and some of the things we're doing. Students come and they say, "You got to see this, Dr. Honts. This is really cool, and it has this great soundtrack, but what is it that they're showing us here about the cell?" And so this is one of the issues that we want to consider. You can make these great CG representations of what's going on, and a complex entity is a cell, but students don't know what it is. So there are these machine-like entities, and they plot along these trackways, and they move cargo and stuff, and we want to teach students how these machines work. I always think it kind of reminds me of Robert Crumb's cartoons. So one of the ideas that we want to focus on is how to engage and inform. Obviously, they're engaged by these complex visualizations. Are they also informed by them as well? And so if you want to teach students about these machines, it's not like Star Trek where you go in and use the diffraction polarimeter and like Wesley Crusher's nanites and see a picture of it in real time moving. It doesn't work like that. It's much more indirect of how we get the information and how it's represented. It's much more like this, and every possible representation you come up with, you exclude more in terms of what is shown than what you actually include in the representation. So every representation is fundamentally limited. So we have some trouble, and so we need some clues. We need to solve the mystery of informative visualizations, and I think we've gotten some huge clues out of this. And as a scientist, we did an experiment in which we made visualizations of different types, fluid animations, a series of key snapshots, and then in the form of a comic book, we tested the students before and after, and we found that they were equally useful and valuable in advancing their understanding. So that means anything goes. All kinds of things will work. So we have content to be delivered in terms of understanding how these cell machines work. And to get them to understand this information, well, they have to understand how the thing works. But if you go to the journals and look at the representations, it's like mind-boggling information overload. What do we do when we have representations like this, which are clearly geared at experts, when we're talking to novices? And so what we had to do is, in our visualizations that we were testing, go through relentless simplification. What is the essence of this idea that we're trying to represent? And I think in some ways we've been able to accomplish this. So this is the exact first frame of a flash animation that we developed and was actually tested. And one of the neat things in the experiments we've done, we've kind of gotten to peer into the students' brains. We see what they thought before and after seeing these various visualizations. And we do get an understanding, idea that they are actually advancing their understanding of how this thing works. One of the problems we found, as in this Fruity Oats commercial, bar commercial from Serenity, is that they come away with things that we don't expect, is that sometimes they get the wrong idea, and it can lead to trouble that they end up misunderstanding. So we want to go to some very basic things. We're thinking more about focusing on these visual narratives, which are as old as humanity. It's so simple that even a caveman, right, as the commercial would say, can understand. Scott McCloud has been really useful in this respect of understanding of how to use words and pictures to communicate complex ideas of all kinds. And so we've used that, and we've begun to develop some comics in which we situate the information within a narrative, within a story that they might actually care about. So we're kind of sugar-coating it, but I think it's important because this is how I think human beings understand. So we make these comics and we put the information in. But there's more than one way to present information. Is you can use even cheesy kind of graphics, and still things like stop animation could communicate ideas. So you got to think that there's more than one modality here in order to communicate these ideas, and that there's different ways to map information that students can understand. It's a nice thing about having a clicker. So one of the things I would like you to take away from here is this quote from Albert Einstein. I think it applies here. Make everything as simple as possible, but not simpler. And so that's a very hard thing to do. So in the end, what we want to be able to do is put words and pictures together, because together they're much more powerful. And I think we're going to do that through these kind of graphical narratives. Thank you.